Hello children, time to learn some real physics. Try this practice problem. Tell me your answer right now. Wow, great job. Good job looking up those values on your equation sheet / reference table. Or also wherever, or also just Googling. Now you guys know it's choice 1, 9.5 times 10 to the 15th meters. Okay. Real physics time. We're going to do a very straightforward practice problem. I haven't taught you guys the equation, but you guys probably know it because it's basically common knowledge. And you guys remember, we started with 60 miles an hour. We will use meters per second for most of physics, but we'll start with this because it's a pretty real life common example of speed that you might hear in your life. Except most people don't drive in New York, but pretend they do. And 60 miles an hour is about 1 mile a minute. I mean, exactly 1 mile a minute. So it makes things nice. Let's say, here's my house. Here's the school. They are a nice, easy number, 10 miles apart. Let's say I want to drive 60 miles an hour. So I get to school in 10 minutes. That would be great. That would make me very happy. That would be like, oh, commute's not so bad, traffic was fine. It just took me 10 minutes. 60 miles an hour is a nice number. It feels good. Okay. But let's say I drive to school and I only go 30 miles an hour. There's a lot of traffic, or maybe I get lost somehow. I only go 30 miles an hour on the way to school. How fast do I have to drive back in order to average 60 miles an hour? I want to have an average driving rate of 60 miles an hour. So think, I'm going to ask my babies, how fast should I drive back so that my average for the whole trip was 60 miles an hour? If I start at 30, what's my second speed on the way back need to be in order to make it 90, in order to make it 60 on average? Sage, what do you think? Well, if you drove there at 30 miles an hour and you got to drive back and the average is 60, you got to go 90 miles an hour. Sage thinks that if you go 30 miles an hour there and 90 back, you'll average 60. What about Hazel? Hazel, is Sage right? 30 there, 90 back, averages 60 miles an hour? No, Sage is not right. You gotta go even faster. If you go faster than 90, you can reach 60 miles an hour average, but you have to go even faster than 90 miles an hour due to secret physics reasons that I'll tell you later. Okay, thanks Hazel. Finally, Daisy. Daisy, were Sage and Hazel right? No, it's impossible. No matter how fast you go, you actually have no speed at all. You actually only went 0 miles an hour. You never went anywhere. What? You heard me. Which baby's right? Should you go back 90 miles an hour? Or faster? Or slower? No. Or is it impossible? Tell me what you think. Okay, we're actually going to do the math. You don't actually have to do the math if you think super logically, but let's try it. So 10 miles, if I drive there 30 miles an hour, and I know that's a mile a minute. No, 30 miles an hour is half that. It'll take me not 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So 30 miles an hour, 20 minutes. Okay, and then let's say I drive back 90 miles an hour, super fast. Don't do this in real life, you're going to get a ticket. Well, if I'm going 90 miles an hour and I'm only going 10 miles, it's going to take me a ninth of an hour. 6.67 minutes. Okay, so Sage's thinking was this. Oh, so this is Sage's thinking. Well, the average of 30 plus 60, 30 plus 90, average is just add them up, divide by 2. Did it work? It didn't work. This is not good. You can't average speeds to find the average speed. Psh, I know, mind blown. Because think about this. 60 miles an hour is a mile a minute. Did I go a mile a minute? Well, I went 10 miles there, 10 miles back. That's 20 miles. Did it take me 20 minutes? No. Going there took 20 minutes. Going back took 6.67 minutes. The whole thing took 26.7 minutes. That's more than 20 minutes. So I didn't average 60 miles an hour because I didn't travel a mile a minute. So Sage was not right. Here's a little video that'll help you remember that for the future if you weren't sure. If you're going a mile a minute, 60 miles an hour, you will travel 20 miles in 20 minutes. We didn't reach that, so we weren't averaging 60 miles an hour. So now you can think about whether Hazel was right while you watch this fascinating video that I closed by accident.
Alright, we're traveling from Logan to Boise, and I just proposed a math question to my beautiful wife, Chelsea. And the question, very difficult to calculate, is if you are traveling 80 miles per hour, how long does it take you to go 80 miles? Okay, what do you think, Chel? Let's go through the process. What do you think?
Well, if I run the mile in about 9 minutes.
Wait, what about the tire turning thing you were talking about? You think that affects it?
Well, I'm just guesstimating probably about, it turns about 400 times in a mile.
That's just guessing calculations?
Yeah, I don't know how you would work that out.
It'd be tough.
Yeah, so, I don't know, because if I run a mile in 9 minutes, then, but that's when I'm out of shape. When I'm really in shape at 7 minutes is when I'm really in shape. And that takes me a mile. And we're going 80 miles. I'm running at about probably 10 miles per hour, if that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty fast for a human being, I think. But, it's got to take at least 58 minutes or something.
58 minutes? It's pretty close.
To go 80 miles.
Do you want to know what the answer is?
What?
Think about 80 miles per hour.
Yeah.
So how long does it take me to go 80 miles if I'm traveling 80 miles per hour?
You are driving faster than a minute a mile.
Yeah, totally.
So I would whack 80 in half, and that's 40. Because, you're probably going 2 minutes a mile.
Just whack it in half.
Well, depends on, some cars' tires turn faster than others.
Yeah, definitely affects it.
Because, I think a truck probably is slower because it weighs more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it also matters if your car's a stick or automatic.
Okay, Chal.
What?
Think about the term miles per hour.
MPH.
MPH. So if I say I'm driving 80 miles per hour, that means I'm going to go 80 miles in an hour.
No, you are not. Because.
Okay, great video. Let's all come back. So hopefully you were a little more aware of speed and velocity and distance and time calculations than that person. But just so we're all on the same page, we gotta write it down. This whole thing, an average speed being the average of speeds, do not do this. It does not work. It's not good. In the future, we're going to use it and it will work, but for this example, it didn't work. Why? Do you want to tell me why? Do you have any ideas why? It's weird, but think about it. You were going 30 miles an hour there and 90 miles back. You went the same distance, but it didn't take you the same amount of time. You spent 20 minutes, or I spent 20 minutes driving at 30 miles an hour, and only 6.67 minutes going 90 miles an hour. So my average speed was not 30 plus 90 over 2. It was much lower. It was less than 60. You could find if you wanted to. It'd be this over this times 60. That would not give me an average speed of 60 miles an hour. So how fast should we drive? Do you think it would work if we drove 100 miles an hour, 120, 150, 180? Hazel was on the right track, but they didn't really get all the way there. If I want to go 60 miles an hour or a mile a minute, I really need to go 20 miles in just 20 minutes. So how fast do I need to go on the way back? If you think about it, it's actually impossible. I need to go 20 miles in 20 minutes, but I already spent 20 minutes driving there. So I need to use my quantum teleporter we talked about earlier. I need to teleport back. If I teleport back at infinite speed and 0 minutes, then I can reach 20 miles in 20 minutes. Otherwise, if I go at some real life speed, anything below infinity, if it takes me any time at all to go from school back home, it'll be more than 20 minutes for the whole trip. So my whole trip average will be more than 60 miles an hour. So don't use this. I'm going to write this formula down. We use V in physics because we describe velocity much more than speed. V avg, or sometimes people draw V with a bar for average speed, avg speed. It's not the average of the speeds. V1 plus V2 over 2. Usually in physics I actually write V0 plus V over 2. The V0 or V0 stands for your initial speed, your starting speed. The V without any subscript is just your speed at any time after that. So V0 is my initial speed, V is my speed at any time, at any specific time. That's why it's like kind of an unknown variable. It could be anything. This formula, it doesn't work. Don't use it. The formula, which the guy in the video knew, and most people do, but again, some people don't. The average is kind of a misnomer. It should really be called the total speed, total velocity. Here's why. It doesn't matter how fast you were going here and here and here and here and here. You don't average your speed for every part of the trip unless every part of the trip had the same amount of time. Then it actually does work, but we'll come back to that later. You don't do that. You don't average your speed. You just do the formula for speed. Distance over time. So here's your first physics formula ever. V equals d over t. We'll come back to something else in a little bit, but that is the first part of your first real physics lesson. So Sage and Hazel were kind of thinking, oh yeah, the average of speeds doesn't work. You have to think, how far did I go in this total time? That's what a speed is, and that's how you find an average speed. It's not the average of speeds. Can't reach. Ouch.